and welcome to another episode of This Is Metal with Joe Lawson. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing good. Excited for this evening's show.
Yeah, I got to tell folks, the shows just keep getting better and better, and you're part of a reason for that. Obviously, people tuning in because you're part of the show, Joe. But
well, thanks.
But of all the shows we've done so far, this you chose to talk tonight about Hellstar. This is probably the band of all the shows we've done that I know the least about. But as I was just telling you before we went on there, I prep for the shows, I always do. So it's going to be a little bit interesting. What I kind of did is I wanted to listen to this band kind of with fresh ear. So I went on YouTube and I randomly just picked 5 Hellstar songs to kind of listen to. And we're going to be talking about that. And since you know a lot more about the band, you're going to probably do a lot more talking today than what I typically do, but it's going to be a fun show for that reason. So I guess the best place to start, Joe, is how long have you been a Hellstar fan, and how long have you been into this band? What's the story of how you first got into them?
Oh, well, I've been a Hellstar fan for quite some time. But the more I listen, and they're one of these bands that I think that as they progress and as they keep going, they just get better. They've went through some lineup changes. They've incorporated some different things into their playing style and different things like that. So if you go through their discography and listen to all the different stuff, you're going to hear obviously. A band that changed and grew, but still stayed true to their own sound.
Yeah, I think.
They pretty much set Houston on fire, the metal scene.
Yeah,
there was a band. There's flyers of Hellstar playing, and in real small letters, there was a band, up and coming band that you might have heard of called Pantera.
Wow.
And Hellstar was the headliner. Pantera was opening for Hellstar.
So Hellstar kind of predates Pantera even as far as these big Texas metal bands.
Actually, Hellstar goes back all the way to 1981.
Oh, wow.
When guitarist Larry Berrigan decided he wanted to put this monster band together, and he took some of the guys from his previous band called Black Rose, and they got together with James Rivera on vocals, Larry Berrigan on guitar, Tom Rogers on guitar, and Hector Pavon on drums, and Paul Medina on bass. And so this was their first lineup, and they were all around age 19. So just a bunch of high school kids, pretty much, just out of school.
Could you imagine fresh out of high school, and this is, this is what you do right out of high school? I mean, amazing.
Yeah, so in 1983, this happened. So if you look up Wikipedia and just different things like that, they're going to say 1983, but the band really started in 81.
Okay.
So in 83, they had this lineup together, and they had the songs together, and they recorded an 8-song demo in the spring. And right away, it was a hit, and it set Texas on fire, and it found its way to the right people, and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, in November of that year, Combat Records signed them. So, and they put out, and that was called Burning Star. 1994 when that was released, and from there it's just it's history. And a lot of I got to give a lot of credit to James Rivera, the vocalist, and he ended up becoming, and he still is, a real good friend of mine.
Wow.
And he's a phenomenal singer, and he's one of the most respectful, polite, gentleman-like people you'll ever meet.
Now, have you been
just down to earth, just a fun-loving, good-hearted guy?
When did Hellstar come on your radar as far as, you getting into their music? Was it all the way back in 83, or has it been a little later than that?
No. Probably, I'd say in the 90s by the time I discovered them. I always say that I was born in the wrong era.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not older than I am now. But I used to want to be older, thinking I missed out on
we know how that
some
goes.
of the good times in the 80s because I was still too young,
Yeah.
But I listened to them and fell in love with them, and like I said, as the band progressed and put out more stuff, I just thought, man, these guys are phenomenal. And then I followed James and some other bands that he was in, Distant Thunder and Destiny's End. That was two albums that he put out on Metal Blade Records, Breathe Deep the Dark and Transition, that were just phenomenal. If you haven't heard of that, look that up. I mean, that'll blow your hair back.
Yeah, and I think James is, from what I was reading, he's kind of the one mainstay in the band. They've had constant lineup changes, and I'm sure that's has a lot to do with the band's kind of sound, if you will, evolving over years. What I kind of noticed in listening to the 5 songs that I picked to kind of listen to is if you go back to like some of the like classic, I guess, material like from the 80s, the songs seemed like they were shorter. It was really full blown on metal. Whereas if you listen to some of the newer stuff, just the last 2 or 3 years they put out, it seems like some of the songs have gone longer. I don't know if I want to say progressive sounding, but it's kind of like somebody asked me, what is Hellstar? I'd kind of say it's a metal band with melody. What do you think of that? Do you think the songs have gone longer? I mean, kind of, you go back to even Metallica, as far back as the first 3 albums, a lot of those songs at the time were not getting played on the radio because everyone's like, oh, Metallica songs are so long. But then, by the time they did the Black Album, that's why they'd shortened up a lot of the songs. So, they were trying to get on the radio by that point, and that's why a lot of the songs off the Black Album. But do you think with Hellstar, have you noticed that the songs have been getting longer? What's your thoughts on that?
No, because Hellstar's not a sellout chump band like Metallica.
Yeah.
So they're a true what I call a true heavy metal band. And they play for the love of metal and their roots and their influences and stuff like that. They could give a shit less about the Billboard. They could give a shit less about the radio and all of that, because now that doesn't mean shit anymore. What matters is the fans, and that's all that matters now.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's why a band like Hellstar has thrived and gotten more successful.
Yeah.
Because they don't need all that crap. And since 1981. They went through lineup changes and stuff, but some of that was because of health problems. People had health problems in the band, and various things like that. And then when they did reunite with some of the original members, and things didn't work out. And but the lineup they got now, these guys are just phenomenal. They're not only great musicians, they love what they do. They love the band. They respect the band, and they're hilarious. Andrew Atwood, one of the guitar players that they got now. I mean. I laughed so much playing some show. We played 3 shows with them on a small little Midwest run that they did in 2014. That's another thing Wikipedia got wrong. They list Andrew as being the guitar player in 2016.
Wow. Okay.
Now maybe officially, that wasn't the case. But in 2014, I was on the road with him, so I know he was in the band. Yeah. So he was playing with them.
I'll tell you a funny story about that, Joe. Is I recently interviewed Rowan Robertson, who played with Ronnie James Dio. He's the guy who played on the album Lock Up the Wolves when Craig Goldie left the band, and he was a guy from Europe, and he was because Ronnie wanted to play with a European guitar player. And he was just 17 at the time, and I was reading on his Wikipedia before I interviewed him. It was saying how he had recorded like another album for Ronnie, supposedly, according to Wikipedia, that was kind of shelved and in the can, because at that point Ronnie decided to go back to Black Sabbath. He says, no, mate, that's not true. He says, we just wrote like a few extra tunes, but there's no other album in the can or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And getting back to Hellstar, let me just ask. Okay, so the first song I listened to was a song from 2020. It's called "Black Wings of Solitude." Now, just to give you a little idea about how people react to this band, this particular song on YouTube had hit 38K, and this is a song from 2020. And this the length of the song. This is what I'm talking about. Is like 7 minutes and 3 seconds. And I'm listening to this, and it's a pretty good tune. But you know what, Joe? It doesn't seem like a song that goes on and on for 7 minutes. It's like they're playing for 7 minutes because it kind of just they play from beginning to middle, end, and it does not seem like it goes on and on. It's just an overall great sounding tune.
That's because the magic of the band captures you.
Yeah.
And that's how their music is. And live, they're one of the most phenomenal bands I've ever seen. They are flawless. They are tight, precision, heavy metal machine live.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of the best metal bands out there.
Yeah, and I also describe it kind of as, again, like I was saying, it's metal with a melody. Like I was saying, I was listening to some of the earlier Hellstar songs from in the 80s, and a lot of it back then sounded a lot more aggressive, a lot more heavy, but kind of a newer stuff. It's still metal. There's no doubt that it's metal. I mean, you're not going to mistake it for a pop tune or anything like that. It's just got a little more melody than some of the classic stuff. But again, it's just a progression, and it's no doubt metal. So anybody that's a metalhead, I think they will dig it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, probably some of their peak popularity, I would say, at least maybe back in the day, came between 1988 and 1989. In '88, they released A Distant Thunder, and that record kind of got them some serious attention. And they were playing arena shows with Yngwie Malmsteen and other bands like that, and they were branching out and playing in Europe and large shows, and played with Sabotage and a lot of more well-known bands around that time. And then in '89, probably their most epic album called Nosferatu, about Bram Stoker's Dracula, came out, and that was a huge that ignited a huge cult following for the band, and they toured with Fate's Warning on their Perfect Symmetry release for that album. And
I think you're going to get a kick out of what I'm about ready to say here, Joe. I was reading on the Wikipedia, as you mentioned. You're never going to believe when they did their very first arena show in December of 1985. You're not going to believe who they opened for.
And when?
This is their very first arena show ever. It was December of 1985.
December of 1985. Yeah. Striper.
Yeah. And I say that because the last episode we did that nobody's heard yet, but it's just fresh in the can, we did on Striper. And again, Hellstar's, pretty much a metal band. Striper, they're much more metal these days. I don't know if in 1985 they were a full-blown metal kind of band like they are these days, but that's kind of a very interesting. Could you imagine being at a gig like that, seeing Hellstar open up for Heavenly Striper?
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. And as the band's gotten, I won't say more progressive, but the progression that the band has taken on is a darker, kind of heavier sound. Yeah. And I'm cool with that. I still love it. I mean, but I love the classic stuff as much. Like I said, James's voice, his vocals is just amazing, and it was an honor to get him to contribute on the Scream King track "Trail of Death." James Rivera and Tim Owens sing on that song with me. So
cool.
That was like a dream come true, to have some of those guys working with me.
Now I imagine each guy records their vocal track kind of together, separately, and then you piece it all together. So what's that like, Joe, when you hear the final product and you're like, man, that just, most people are going to be listening to that and they're going to maybe be under impression you guys were in the same studio. It just sounds that good.
It's like being a kid at Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And you wake up and you see this room full of presents, and you run out there and you're so excited you can't wait to start ripping them open. That's how I feel.
And now let me ask you now. So James Rivera, and you've got Tim Owens on the same song. Have you actually met Tim ever, or you just kind of communicate with him via the internet?
Yeah, you know what, Tim, I've never actually met in person.
Yeah.
I've just talked to him a few times. Yeah. I tried to get some promoters to do some shows, and we talked back and forth a little bit, stuff like that, and on Facebook a little bit, and that's really it. Yeah,
because you're going to try to. The next goal has to be is, especially now that things are going to start. I mean, I was watching news. I could not believe it. It sounds like talking about live shows again, Joe. Live Nation and all these concert promoters they're announcing all these big tours and everything, which, like Motley Crue and that, they pushed back till, 2022 again. But I was surprised to hear bands like, the Eagles, and I forget who else it was, but a lot of big shows, even just this year, they're announcing finally, and their promoters are starting to do stuff like that. So that's a good sign to me. But I was going to say, the next goal for you get these two guys to play on your track. You're going to have to maybe... see if you can get them to get up on stage with you and, as a special guest or something in one of your shows and sing that with you.
Well, the funny thing about that is when we knew the Hellstar shows were coming, I tried to get James to do a song with us.
Wow.
And, it just didn't work out, and he wasn't able to. But the last show that we did with him in Illinois, he called me up to sing "Run with the Pack" with them.
Wow.
So it was fun. It was cool. It was crazy. But I wish he would have gave me a little heads up. I would have brushed up on the tune and actually learned it instead of fumbling my way through it with them. But nonetheless, it was a special moment, and it was really cool to be on stage with them.
Yeah, now that's what I was getting ready to ask, because again, on an opportunity like that, only comes way comes your way not too often, but that's part of being a live act is, if people want to hear it, just how it's played on the record, you stay home and listen to your record or whatever, but or your CD, but it's all rock and roll, Joe, in a way. And so do you get nervous when you're up there and kind of like, or do you like you kind of just follow along with what he's doing and kind of just sing along, or does that make it any easier?
That I was a little nervous because I wasn't expecting it, and I'm like, well, I don't really. I mean, I know the song, but I don't. Okay. So it was fun. And like I said, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I wish, like I said, I wish I would have had a little bit of a heads up. I would have practiced the song.
Yeah, of course.
Bit, and got comfortable with it. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was really cool. And when it was all said and done, him, James, and Larry Berrigan, the guitarist, both complimented me. And James told me, he said, "Man, Larry don't give out compliments to too many people."
Wow.
He said, "So you earned that."
Okay,
so that made me feel pretty good. But going back to their discography a little bit. In '95, the band signed with Massacre Records, which is who they're signed with currently now. And their latest EP is out on Massacre Records, Clad in Black. So the band signs with them and hires who? Megadeth bassist David Ellison.
Oh, wow. You've seen the same thing
Multiples of Black.
You've seen the same thing I did, yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of a different sound, a different Hellstar, and it wasn't really embraced or accepted by their fan base a whole lot. So that kind of just fizzled away, and it was a good shot. They tried, and it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say that it was bad. I mean, listen to it, and everybody make up your own mind. But interestingly enough, that connected Hellstar to Megadeth clear back in '95. So I thought that was pretty interesting to note. And I mean, they've toured the world, and they've toured with everybody that there is under the sun. Like I said, they've been around since 1981, and just going back to some of the shows that I played with them. The first time that I met James, he was filling in for Flotsam and Jetsam.
Wow.
And they were playing a small bar in Illinois, and I was blown away because I remember seeing Flotsam, and Eric really couldn't hit the highs like he used to, and his voice was kind of hoarse, and he was struggling. He was, but and then I see him with James, and they're doing all these from No Place for Disgrace and Doomsday for the Deceiver and all these old school Flotsam songs, and he's just fucking nailing the highs, and it just sounds dynamite good. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And so I got to hang out a little bit with him and got to know him a little bit then, and then he had come back up for some I think some shows that he was in, and he's got a Black Sabbath Judas Priest tribute band.
Oh wow, I could see him doing that. Yeah.
And he was here in Indiana, and I guess he had crashed or went home with some people or something like that, and got separated from the band and needed a ride.
Oh wow!
So he called me because he's like, "Who do I know in Indiana?"
Yeah.
And so I drove to go pick him up and get him back to here to Illinois for the next night for his next show.
Wow.
And at the time, I'm driving this old beat-up pickup truck, and it's pouring rain, and the window doesn't roll up, so he's getting soaked.
Wow.
On the passenger side, we got like shirts and stuff hanging up, just trying to block out some of the rain. And needless to say, this was a little bit before I had GPS or anything, and an old pickup truck. So we're driving around and got lost. So it was like we were through a war. He said.
Wow.
Show.
What a great story.
And we laughed and joked about it over here at Jason Ward was the bass player that played in Flotsam, that was playing in his band with him at the time.
Wow.
We kind of sat around and laughed about it, but so that's kind of how I got to know him and be friends with him. And then the opportunity came for these shows, and I won't mention the name, but the promoter really dropped the ball on these shows.
Wow.
And they almost didn't happen. And it got so bad at one point, one of the shows for the Indiana show, and this wasn't the promoter's fault, but the venue got raided for serving alcohol with an expired liquor license.
Oh, wow.
So the feds shut them down. And this was 4 days before the show.
Wow.
So the promoter calls me all upset, asking, what can we do? What are we going to do? And I'm like, man, it's 4 days before the show. I mean, I don't know. I'll try and pull a rabbit out of a hat, I suppose. And I just got extremely lucky. There was a newer club that opened up in LaPorte, and it was a really classy, nice venue. And I thought, well, I'm going to go try it. What the hell? And I typed up a contract, and I went up there, I set up a meeting with the owner, and I was able to get the only decent guarantees for the band for that whole Midwest run.
Wow.
And so it was great. We had a huge spread of food and nice place, and they were really appreciative of it, and they liked the place, and so we had a good time playing the shows. I mean, a couple of them weren't that great attendance wise. I mean, they were decent, but we were hoping for something better. But it is what it is, and we did 3 shows with them: Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana, and had a blast doing them. And like I said, I got to get up there and do some songs with them, so that was pretty cool. And
wow.
Yeah, so
okay, wow.
Interesting little run there on a personal note, and that's what kind of led to
doing this,
being comfortable enough to ask James to do the song with us on for the new Scream King record as well.
Oh wow. So I guess you sent him the lyrics and that for the part that he's going to sing, and so did you tell him, hey James, just kind of do your thing, or did you give him any instruction like what type of vocal you wanted?
Well, you know what, I kind of had that song wrote, let Tim, I said the same thing, do your own thing, And of course, those guys are professionals. I just sent them demo tracks of kind of what I was hearing in my head. And they just took it and gave it
a new life
on it and made it, their own. And
that's what
it turned out awesome, I think. I think it's turned out fantastic.
Wow.
It's probably one of the heavier songs on the new album.
Oh, okay.
I'm real proud of it.
Wow, that's cool. I can't wait to hear it now. Now, here's another song I gave a listen to. Now, interesting thing is here, the song is called Awaken Unto Darkness, and it says it's a song from 2021, and here's the funny story with this, is it said something in the descriptor that the video is going to be premiering sometime in June, yet the video was online already, so kind of interesting there. And the way I describe this is it's...
Awaken Unto Darkness is one of their album titles. Bill Matoyer produced, and... oh, no, not the album title, I'm sorry. One of the first tracks on Hellstar Vampiro.
Oh, okay.
That album, on EMP, David Ellison's label.
Interesting, yeah.
Another tie to Dave Ellison. Awaken Unto Darkness is the first track off of that album. Yeah.
And I wasn't going to go here.
2016 that came out.
And I wasn't going to go here, Joe, but while you bring it up, this is another topic that's kind of popping up all over Facebook the last few days since it was announced that David Ellison's no longer in Megadeth. And in regards to his label, now that he's got all this stuff going on, I'm wondering how the record company is going to be affected. Like if his partner is going to dump him, if the bands on the label are going to be affected. I'm just kind of interested to see, and I guess time will tell.
Yeah, with COVID and everything that's happened, there was barely a record industry to begin with. Pre-COVID. And now, I mean, I don't know what you would call it. There's remnants of people trying to put their lives and music together and somehow continue on. I don't even know if you could call any of them a record label anymore.
Oh, at
this point, and hopefully that'll change and that'll turn around, and maybe people will have a hunger and more of an interest now that since they've been locked up so long. Maybe they'll support music more, hopefully.
Yeah, in regards to the song we were just talking about, Awaken Unto Darkness, to me, I listen to that, and it's heavy metal, but with a heavier melody. and it had kind of to me, it reminded me kind of like of classic, had a bit of a Sabbathy vibe, but I don't know if it really sounds like Sabbath, but it's got like kind of a Sabbath influence to it, but definitely, again, just real heavy metal with great melody to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that they've done, they've had this classical music spin, especially with the melodies and stuff like that. They're all very accomplished musicians. And work real hard at their craft, and that's another thing that I always really admired about the band. Their arrangements are crazy. I mean, they're not so progressive that they lose their interest.
Yeah.
That they're only like Dream Theater fans and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But to me, that's taken it so far that you're just playing for your own ego. You're not playing for the music anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not playing for the song. And these guys definitely play for the song, and they got their own unique sound, their own stamp.
Yeah, I mean,
and they've been doing it since, like I said, 1981. That's a hell of a long time.
I mean, this isn't Jethro Tull. I mean, some guy told me he's a huge Jethro Tull fan. This guy I know, and he was telling me on one of the albums, he's like. He says one whole side of one of their albums is just one song, if you can imagine. So that's really progressive.
Right.
Yeah, but and another interesting thing about Hellstar that I kind of got the feeling from reading a little bit about the band's history, all these different bands they've opened up for. See, even as a metal band, I think Hellstar is a unique band in that they could open for a Striper, they could open for maybe a Megadeth. They're one of those bands, even though they're a metal band. I think they could, they could open up for many different types of bands.
Oh yeah. They have. They've played with everybody, like I said, everybody under the sun.
And I think that's part of the reason for their longevity is the fact that, you don't have to just go out with metal bands. This is a band that can, probably go primarily with metal bands, but different types of metal bands. So I think that's part of the reason that they've been around so long.
Yeah, and like I said, to me it always comes down to talent too. Good songwriting and good musicianship and the chemistry. If you ever get a chance to see these guys live, don't pass it up. That's all I got to say. And they're back to playing shows coming up in July in their own Texas area and Houston area, and they'll be out your way. I'm sure in a short time. I'm sure they'll head out to California here. And later this summer sometime probably.
And the third track I chose to listen to is called I think this is the one you just posted on our This Is Metal page, but it's called Incarnation, Mother of the Night. And this to me, this song, it sounds like it could be featured like on a like a horror soundtrack. The vocals are really kind of haunting and but just super stuff here.
Yeah. They've done a variety, like I said, of things. To really get a grasp of what the band Hellstar really is you got to listen to some of the classic old stuff, and some of the stuff in the middle, and then some of the stuff from now too, to kind of see the progression and how the band evolved, more or less. But they also got a really good live DVD CD. Called Hellstar 30 Years of Hell. Oh, wow. And it's got some great tracks on it and a lot of good bonus stuff on it. That's another great way to get introduced because there's a shit ton of songs on this that they play live. They're phenomenal. So. Yeah,
wow. And then the next song I listened to, this is the fourth track I listened to, is going all the way back to 1984. It's I guess what they would call a classic Hellstar tune, Burning Star. I think you mentioned this earlier. And to me, what I love about this, it's pure, this full-blown metal, screeching vocals, like any metalhead's going to love. And what I really noticed on some of these older tunes is that the drums were just really like thunder-like powerhouse drumming.
Oh yeah. They've had some really good production on some of the stuff they did. And the Vampiro album that came out in 2016 on EMP label group. That's a great example. They work with Bill Metoyer. Bill Metoyer's worked with every band that's ever went through Metal Blade for years and years. His resume is like a mile long.
Wow.
And So it's a phenomenal. I mean, the production is just like wow good.
Yeah, and wow. And then again,
so you'll check that out. And that's the one. That's the album with Awaken Unto Darkness.
Oh wow. And then the last track I chose to listen to is called Evil Rain, and again this one's going back to 1986, and it's a little more kind of full blown on metal. It's got a little bit of melody there, but let me just tell folks, this would never be mistaken for a power ballad or anything. Definitely metal, right. and it really has kind of a Sabbathy Megadeth vibe to it, but I guess that's the vibe they were going for back then, because again, one of the first things I read on Hellstar was you mentioned they were originally signed to Combat Records, which that was the first label that like Megadeth, so they were like label mates with Megadeth and Exodus, so then later they'd go on to Metal Blade, as you were saying, but that was for Megadeth was even signed to Capitol Records,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
they've been around that long, and with those bands, and I kind of feel like that for years they just really never got the respect that I feel that they deserve. But over the last 10 to 15 years, I think that's changed. I think that they finally got a little bit more of a place and landed some good tours and things like that, and it was good to see them to get some of that respect back that I said.
Yeah, well,
I've always thought that they deserve.
The band
King of Hell in 2008. That's another phenomenal album.
Wow.
And there's some really good videos off of that record too. So if you get a chance, go look some of those up.
Yeah, and like I was saying, for example, one of the songs I listened to, number one on my list was Black Wings, "A Solitude," and just looking that up on YouTube, it had 38K hits as far as that many people checking it out. And so for a band that goes all the way back to 81 or 82, people still checking this band out. It's almost like people continuing, very much like myself, because I'll be honest, until you told me, hey, let's do an episode on Hellstar, I never really was aware of the band. And so like I always do, I said, okay, well, I better know what I'm talking about when we do the episode, so I'm going to go online and at least listen to some of its music, check out what the band's about. And again, very much like when we did our Sabotage episode, I'm like, man, how did I miss these guys? I mean, because again, anybody like me that's discovering Hellstar for the first time, I don't think you will be disappointed. If anything, you kind of be excited to say, okay, well, I can go all the way back to 1982, or whenever the first album came out, and they've got, plus 30-year career of stuff to check out. And it's almost like discovering all this great music for the first time,
Right.
Yes.
Right. But like I said, if you want to listen to some of the classic stuff too that started to I won't say it's more polished, but it's not commercial.
Yeah.
So, like I said, A Distant Thunder and Nosferatu, those records. And that's really where they started to see some serious success. They toured with Yngwie Malmsteen, Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, Exodus, and Armored Saint. Bill Metoyer took them on and produced those albums, of course, from Metal Blade. And they started to get to a place where people knew who they were, and checking the bands out. There's a song on A Distant Thunder called Abandoned Ship that's actually dedicated to the guitarist Rob Trevino departing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, so, Joe, I got to thank you once again for turning me on to this great band, Hellstar, that I've never heard of, but once again, I mean, you know how to pick them, so that's why we do this with you. I just think this has been kind of fun getting turned on to this band the last few days and prepping for a show today.
Yeah, and people give it a listen if you're not familiar with Hellstar. It's hard to pinpoint and say that they sound like this or they sound like that, because it depends on what album and what era you listen to. Yeah. But to me, I hear elements of Judas Priest, Yngwie Malmsteen, Dio, some Sabbath. And some heavier stuff, of course, for the more modern lineup of Hellstar. But it's great stuff, man. Really, really, really top-notch band. And if you ever get a chance to see them live, they're they're one of the best bands I've ever seen live. They're phenomenal, and they always throw in some great classics. They always do some Dio or some Priest or stuff like that. They just have fun and mix it up. And they've been a band for so long and played together so long. It's effortless. It's fun to be in the crowd when they're playing.
So let me ask you, being a guy that's kind of knows James Rivera and has jumped up on stage with him, you got him playing on your upcoming album. What do you think he would think? Like if you were to tell him, hey, I got this show, this is metal, James, and we did an episode on Hellstar. What do you think he would think of that?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. Hopefully, when we publish it, hopefully he listens to it and likes it.
Yeah.
And, like I said, they got a new EP out, Clad in Black. So definitely check that out. And it was released in just this year in February.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he has no problem. Like, hey, yeah, get the band a little more, spread the word about the band. But I guess the reason I'm asking is, and you probably don't really have an answer for this, but why do you think? Okay, like you take the classic, what we call the big four bands. Okay, you take Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax, and Slayer. Those bands probably out of all these metal and thrash bands, they probably got the most attention. Why do you think a band that like Hellstar, it's even been around, say, longer, even say Metallica, why do you think a band like that kind of falls by the wayside and doesn't even get as much publicity as those other bands?
Well, for the most part, a lot of people have shallow, shitty music taste.
Yeah.
So that plays a big part of it. But like I said, they're not a Billboard top 200, top 40 band. They're not a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band. They're not a radio band. They're a true underground, badass heavy metal band. And they incorporate a sense of musicality and melody and rip and harmony guitar stuff and just some really, really impressive stuff. And that, unfortunately, that's not the flavor of the month, especially in America.
Yeah.
But they do well. They go over to Europe and they play all the big major festivals over there.
Yeah.
And they're a big name, and everybody in the real metal community knows who they are.
Yeah.
And they've toured with everybody. They've put out album after album and worked with all the biggest names in the industry and biggest labels for metal bands out there. But I attribute a lot of that to, like I said, it's just the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
If Hellstar wanted to sell out and put out a black album like Metallica did, could they? Yeah. Of course they could. They're talented as fuck. They could have done that a long time ago if they wanted to.
They stayed true.
They troopered it out. They stayed true to their sound. Yeah. They didn't reach the success of an Iron Maiden, but I compare them to Iron Maiden in.
Well, we lost you there, Joe, but we're back.
Right. Yeah. I went into the dark 30 there. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, anyways, but yeah, you make a very good point. I've noticed for years that even like even a lot of the top American bands, a lot of the European fans treat them much better than they're treated here in America. I mean, even you take a band like Wasp. Wasp is not as popular as they once were in the U.S., but I tell you, like you said, Blackie Lawless plays for example, he plays all the big European festivals, and he gets a lot of love over there, and it makes a lot more money. So why would you not do it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's hard to say what's going to happen post-COVID. I think it's going to take some time to get everything back up and running. It's not just going to. It's not like
it's going to take off.
It's just going to come back on. And it's going to take some time. But some of these trooper type bands like Hellstar and stuff, hopefully they keep doing it. They're not getting any younger, but like I said, that's quite an impressive career for them guys since 1981. Man, that's a hell of a haul.
Now, Joe,
Hellstar's almost as old as I am.
Yeah, I don't imagine, Joe, that you've ever played like Europe or outside the U.S. with any of your bands.
No, unfortunately, I sure haven't yet.
Yeah, but let me ask you.
It's one of my bucket list things to do, and hopefully, maybe someday that'll happen.
Yeah, let me ask you, though, as far as, CDs sales and that, do you find that, I'm sure you sell pretty good, like here in the U.S., but do you find there are other parts of the world where you're surprised that, people latch onto your music?
No, I don't really find it a surprise.
Not a surprise, but like,
it's difficult. It's difficult for us because if we sign with a label to do this, then the label would put it all out. But you do everything. You do all the work. You pay for everything.
Yeah.
To me, that's not a record label.
Yeah.
And most record labels that are out there calling themselves record labels, that's what they're doing.
Wow.
The bands are paying for literally everything. The record label is not investing a fucking dime into the band.
Wow.
So that doesn't get anywhere. That's just whoever has the most money wins.
Yeah.
So that's not to me. That's not really building a fan base. That's just because you have money. Yeah. So what has happened is that it gets difficult to sell CDs overseas because the shipping costs.
Oh, there you go.
They have to pay so much more.
Yeah.
So what we have to do as an independent band, we work with some of these smaller labels and smaller record shops and stores like that, and we give them a break on the price per unit, and they buy 30 CDs, and then that way, when we ship it to them, and they can sell CDs in Greece, in Germany, Italy, and wherever, and set their own prices, and they're selling them in the stores that the metalheads there are comfortable and familiar with, and that they can go to 5 minutes away or whatever and buy it.
Wow.
A lot of people still, old school metalheads don't buy stuff as much online and stuff. They don't do the digital thing, but I suppose that's changing, In the U.S., that's not the case. It's very different here, of course, but so you kind of got to do a little bit of everything. You got to have digital release. You got to have CD and vinyl if you can. And that's just making it more accessible, and you're going to be more successful. Even if you only sell 10 or 15 units of each.
Wow.
That's 10 or 15 units. That's 10 or 15 units that you wouldn't have sold if you didn't have it as a vinyl or a CD or whatever. And for us, still, CD sales, even in the U.S., we sell more CDs than we do digital downloads. Yeah,
I think you, Joe. I'm an old school guy as far as I remember when I was a teenager. I still to this day I love. I miss going to the music store, and I used to spend all day in Tower Records. But I still love getting a physical CD. I mean, a lot of the stuff I listen to. I mean, there's really no place to go, even in Los Angeles where I live, where you'd think you'd be able a ton of music stores. No, they don't exist anymore. But so a lot of stuff I buy either through the bands I listen to, or I go on Amazon and I pretty much find anything I want there. But that's not buying my music, because I love to hold a CD in my hand. I love to read the liner notes. I love to read who played on the album, who wrote the songs, and even the artwork. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day. I remember the first time I got Kiss Alive 1, on vinyl. You open that up, and man, that was an experience back in the day. I mean, that was first one of those albums you ever got to open up like that, and it was an experience. People are really missing out on that, And
absolutely.
And I guess the final question I want to ask you regarding to be a musician yourself, Joe, and putting music out is, because you get people contacting you every day on the internet. I mean, that's how I found you, and it must amaze you sometime, in Indiana when you're sitting there reading these messages every day people send you and thinking, wow, halfway around the world and, other side of the world, another country, people are listening to my music. I mean, these people that send you messages, these fans, it's got to be kind of just boggle your mind for a minute. Wait a minute. There's there's a country, somebody's listening to my CD right now, and I never stepped foot in that country. I've never played a show there, but somebody's spinning my tune.
You know what? It's a very good feeling.
And,
money can't replace that. Nothing can replace that.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'll take with me
to your grave.
I'm very grateful and very humble for that, because a lot of people are out there doing the same thing that I am, and some of them are more successful and some of them aren't as successful. So the way I look at it, especially at this point in my life, is, hey, I've done a lot of things that a lot of people
haven't
never
done.
get to say they've accomplished or did, and that's pretty unique and pretty special. and I'm really grateful for it. And whatever else comes, I just look at it like, it's icing on the cake, and I've gotten to do some pretty neat stuff with some pretty cool people.
That's why I laugh sometimes.
And I'm grateful. Yeah. I love talking to people across the world and connecting with them and sending them stuff or hearing that they got, my CD or, that they like this song or they like that song or, that's all the payment that I need, really.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a cool feeling too that these songs, being that you're the guy that sings them and you wrote them, you know what the songs are about, but it's also got to be a fun, amazing feeling when you have somebody tell you, I listened to that song, Joe, on your CD, and man, this is what I got out of it, or it reminded me of something I went through in life, and like, well, that's not what I wrote the song about, but hey, if you got that out of it, great.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what's so cool about music, sometimes I would just rather let people
interpret
make their own connection with the song, rather than tell them what it's about or try and explain to them. If they feel a connection to that song, let them have it.
Yeah. That's cool. And we were talking a little bit about Metallica came up today in the conversation, and we've talked about Metallica before, but would you say you're more of an old school Metallica fan versus what they've done since the Black Album?
By far and large. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So, like, pretty much from our conversation tonight, because the Black Album, I guess you're not a real huge fan of.
Well, you know what? The interesting thing about that is I think that that album had good songs on it.
Yeah.
I think that was a good album. It was.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't really Metallica.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of a change and a very, very much changing, evolving band that was just turning into a big corporate sellout type of band.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the last good record they put out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it has a lot to do with Bob Rock producing, but because I don't think like James or Lars do anything they don't want to do, but I don't know if you could even call it a pop album. I liked a lot of his stuff, and I didn't mind that they were all over MTV, but because it was kind of like at the time I remember, well, yeah, that's one bands I grew up on, and they're all over the place now, but a lot of fans had a backlash, and I bring it up only because I can't believe that 2021 marks the 30th anniversary of that album. Can you believe it's been that long?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That shows you.
Been that long.
That shows you how old we are.
Flies by, don't it?
Yeah, that shows you how old we are, Joe, and also it's interesting time capsule, in metal history, because that's when they did the tour with Guns N' Roses. That's when James Hetfield burned his arm and all that. So, I mean, just when you think of all that, 30 years have gone by.
Yeah, that's a bit of a step there, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
but one thing else I wanted to bring up again about the Hellstar Live DVD, 30 Years of Hell.
Well,
it's the band's first appearances in Hungary and Czechoslovakia Republic and Turkey, to name a few. So they got some interesting shows on there. Some pretty good footage on there. So you can see some of it on YouTube. I posted a clip of it in the our This Is Metal Facebook group page. So you can go on there and check out a little bit of it there as well. And definitely get familiar with these guys and listen to some of their stuff. They got some amazing stuff, and it's not all of it. It's not all of the same. You listen to one song and think, this is what they're about. No, it's not.
Oh, you got
to check them out, man.
I can definitely say that because again, I just kind of picked 5 songs to kind of discuss with you tonight, Joe. So I had something to talk about, but that's really the one thing I've noticed. Again, kind of it came up also on the This Is Metal page that I was posting something earlier about Kiss, because I'm a huge Kiss fan, and I was having a discussion with a couple people about, for example, would you call Kiss, what is Kiss? Are they hard rock? Are they a metal band? Are they a pop band? People have different views of different things, but and also, while we're on the subject of Kiss, I want to ask you, because I never knew this about you until you posted the other day that you have a tape of yourself somewhere singing Parasite, and then you mentioned a couple other Kiss songs. So are you a real big Kiss fan, or how big of a Kiss fan are you, Joe?
You know what? Honestly, I wasn't really a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah, I wouldn't picture you as one, but
you know, when I heard some of the tunes like that, the Revenge album, I just love that. That's just awesome. And you know, the live stuff was really cool too. The live was just amazing. And when I heard songs like Deuce and Parasite and some of those, I was like, man, those are like heavy. Those are kick ass.
Yeah, and you know another cool
Kiss. It was a lot of fun playing them, you know, and you know, heavying them up and doing our own version of it. It was fun, you know.
Yeah, you know, and another cool Kiss song from back in the day, if you go all the way back to the second album, 1974, is Hotter Than Hell. There's a song on there, it's really heavy. Peter Criss sings it, but it's a tune Ace Frehley wrote. It's called Strange Ways. And again, I bring this up only, Joe, because I never would picture you, a guy singing Kiss songs, but again, like you said, they're kind of like metal sounding, and you've got the voice for that, so I could see you doing it in a way, but if you ever find those recordings, I'd love to hear you post them.
Yeah, I actually forgot all about that. I need to go through and see if I can find some of that and talk to some of the guys I played with back then and see if I can locate that.
And yeah, I guess final question for the day, Joe. Since you also posted this on our This Is Metal page and it got my attention, I think it was probably the other day or today when you posted it. You posted the latest video from Flotsam and Jetsam, which we had done an episode on a while back, and it's up there. People can check it out. But cool new sounds from those guys, and I was kind of wondering if you wanted to share with people, what you like about the song or why you chose to post it. Because I just encourage you, Joe, to let's keep posting tracks like that for people to check out. Because it's a great sounding tune, I thought.
Yeah, they're another one of those bands that just keep putting out great records, man. Good music, and it's almost surprising or shocking to me that these bands, it's like, man, they just keep topping themselves, you know.
Oh yeah. And I guess my final statement for the day, Joe, and we'll let you wrap it up, is I think one day we got to do an episode on kind of, and we're going to call it, the show is This Is Metal. Maybe we'll dub it like What Is Metal, because I always have seen stuff online, people posting, and I gotta laugh sometimes what people will say is metal. Like, for example, people will say a band like White Lion is metal. Maybe hair metal, maybe glam. I don't know. But, they got maybe some heavier songs. But like, I was looking, people from time to time, they'll post like cover of old rock mags, like, Circus Magazine, Hip Parader back in the day. And when I look at some of the stuff that used to be in those magazines, they were like I seen a cover of Hip Parader magazine from back in the day, and it said they had Journey in the magazine. I don't know if Journey's much of a metal band, but I laugh sometimes when I see what people consider metal. But then again, you have a band like Kiss, they're not full-blown on metal, but they got tracks like you're saying, like, Deuce and Detroit Rock City, that they could be considered metal. So that would be a fun episode, I think, down the line.
Yeah, sure.
Well, anything else you got?
Journey's a great band, by the way. They're not a metal band, but a phenomenal classic rock band. I love Journey. Yeah, I love all that classic rock, Boston, Kansas, and all those bands are phenomenal.
Because it's like any band, Joe. I mean, it doesn't have to be metal, but I think what makes a great band is all those bands we've mentioned, they all have one thing in common: great songwriting.
Absolutely. Yep, that's what it always boils down to.
And that's why a band like...
Gotta have that.
That's why a band like Kiss... people will tell you, they're not the world's greatest musicians, but you know what they have that a lot of bands don't? Again, great songwriting. That's why with Gene and Paul writing all these great hit songs, we got 50 years of music. And
I thought what you were going to say is what they have, what everybody else don't have, is a huge bank account.
Well, that too. but I mean, people used to say back in the day in regards to Kiss that they made it just because of their makeup. I don't think they would have lasted just because of makeup for 50 years, if that's all they had.
No, of course not. Did the gimmick help them? Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did that allow them to continue a career this long and successfully in music?
Yeah.
No.
And what's funny about the makeup is back in the day, going all the way back to 1973 when they were just getting their start, before they ever had a record deal, everybody was telling them, we love the band, we love the music, but you have to wear the makeup. And that was the gimmick. That's what got everybody initially.
Right.
Okay, well, Joe, do you have anything else you'd like to add? It's been a great show, and I guess we'll do it again next Tuesday.
No, like I said, just give that stuff a chance. You can look online. Also, look up Destiny's End, Breathe Deep, The Dark, and Transition.
Wow,
Phenomenal metal masterpieces. I'll probably go online and try and find a track or two and post it in the group page just so people can get a taste of it.
Okay, Joe, you have a great rest of the night, and I'll be talking to you. Take care, my friend.
You as well.
Okay, bye-bye.